So, peak performance comes from, I don't know people and shit, but it comes from obviously the field of psychology. And there were, a few decades ago, a bunch of psychologists that realised what had been happening in psychology for forever up till then was it was purely focused on taking people who were fucking ill and making them not ill anymore. And that was it, right? It was like, you're not okay, let's just make you okay. And it was kind of stopping there. And they realised that there's this whole opportunity of flipping that over and taking people from being okay to the best they could possibly be, all right? So the way it was described to me was what we used to have was actually, or what we still do, is psychopathology. So you take someone who's ill and you try and make them better, as opposed to peak performance psychology, which is going to get you, so if you look at psychopathology, it's trying to get you anywhere from a -10, which is, you know, bouncing off the padded walls kind of thing, up to a 0, which is operating normally in society. Peak performance psychology tries to take you from 0 to your +10, which is the most successful, impressive, world-changing, shiny, glorious version of you that there could possibly ever be, okay? So what we want to do is we want to take that 0 to +10 journey and put it into our own lives so that we can start moving towards that, okay? So, you all know Maslow and the hierarchy of needs. Well, he's also famous for saying a couple of other things as well, right? He's famous for the quote, what one can be, one must be, okay? And that's exactly what peak performance is. It's thinking about who you could become and then having ways of becoming that person, all right? He also said we are always either moving forward into growth or backwards into safety. So every choice, action, decision, or even thought that you make and have and cling to, you're doing one of those two things. You're never moving from, you're never doing an action that just doesn't move you anywhere. It's always forward into growth, which is actually then also forward into perceived danger and perceived hard work, or you're moving backwards into safety, comfort, but also, if you think about it, you get a pen. This is your -10, this is your 0, this is your +10. Doesn't particularly matter where you're at right now. And to be honest, where you think you're at, you're probably not, because it's hard to tell until you really get stuck into it. However, the point is this, say you're a 3. So say you're up here as a 3. Every action you take gets you closer to 4, 5, 6 and 7, or it gets you moving into safety, but safety also means moving closer to 0, all right? And the more movements you take moving towards 0, if you keep taking movements towards safety, you're making movements towards pathology. You're making movements towards poor mental health. Okay, so if that's significant in life, so you got to ask yourself, what do you want to be doing? Who would you rather be? And I'm sure becoming a +10 is going to be much more attractive than becoming a -10. Yeah. Cool. So it's about just changing the paradigm of the way you think about every decision that you make each and every day, and everything that you do, and being aware that every time you decide against something because it feels a bit risky or it puts you out of your comfort zone, you're not just not moving forward, you're actually moving backwards. Yeah? Making sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So getting a bit into the kind of philosophy of peak performance then, a lot of it goes back to ancient Greeks, as this kind of shit always does, or the ancient Romans as well. I'm not going to quote Marcus Aurelius today though. Or I might, you never know. But they had this phrase called summum bonum, okay? I'm assuming that's Latin, right? Do you speak any Latin? No. I'm shocked.
No.
I'm shocked. Basically, summum bonum is Latin for your highest purpose. Okay, so the ancient Greeks believed, well, a lot of them, the philosophers amongst them, believed that the key to meaning and happiness in life came from pursuing your highest purpose. Okay? And if you were pursuing your highest purpose, then you would find happiness. And if you were looking for immediate gratification, then you wouldn't. Okay, those are the basic two opposite ends of that. And they believe that your highest purpose is to use your greatest strength in service to the world. So if you think about that, if you choose to have that as your highest purpose, life becomes really extremely simple. You don't have to wonder really why else you're going to get out of bed that day, because that's just your one defining reason. As long as your compass points towards that as your true north, life is simplified, and you immediately, you have more meaning in your life. And it doesn't have to be a road to Damascus, flash of light style of inspiration to find out what your greatest strengths are and how to use those in service to the world. This is made up of many small missions through your life. So every act of service and every act of positivity that you bring to the world, that's taking you towards your highest good. And it's through this journey process that you're going to find out about what your greatest strengths are, and you're going to find out about how you would like to use those to help people, because that's basically what it's about. Okay? Is that an attractive prospect? Are you happy about that? Yeah? So if we assume that using our greatest strengths in service to the world is our highest purpose and that we want to go for that, then we need to look at taking this plus 10 into consideration. To do this to our best of our ability, we have a responsibility to ourselves and to the people that we're going to help to get as far along to our best possible self as possible. Okay, so going back to the ancient Greeks again, they believed in a different kind of hell to what the Christians believe in these days. All right, they believed that hell was lying on your deathbed, you're about to pass away, and this figure walks into the room, this godlike looking figure is shining with this aura of power and amazingness, and you look and you're like, wow, who is this amazing being, this godlike figure that's just walked into my room? And then you realise that's the you could have become in your life if you've done all the things to become your best possible self. And then realising the gap between who that is and who you are at the point of your death, that's when you're in hell. Okay? And from a psychology point of view, consciously and subconsciously, the gap between who you could be and who you are now is the source of discontent, anxiety, and depression. Okay? So when you feel overwhelmed, or when you feel like just depressed and anxious and you can't quite put your finger on it, a lot of the time, if you were going to ask yourself, am I doing everything I can to be the best I can be? And the answer is no. That's where a lot of that comes from. That's where a lot of low self-esteem problems come from as well. Okay. So in order to feel better, ask yourself every day, what am I doing to become the best I can be? And again, just by being on that journey, that's why it doesn't matter where you're at. Because purely by just being on the journey in the first place, you will immediately feel better. You don't need to know all the answers. You don't need to know who your best self is. All you need to know really at the beginning who's a me significantly better than I am now. And if you spend enough time thinking about it, in fact, you probably don't need to spend very long thinking about it, because there will probably be multiple instances every day where you're like, I should be doing this better. Should be doing that better. But you just get into the habit of not doing it, right? Give me something simple as not brushing your teeth before bedtime. I quite often go to bed without brushing my teeth, but I tell myself, I should be brushing my teeth. Fuck it. But that's a little thing, that's like a micro example of not being the best you can be. Who's the best, most wonderful, shining person of me? He's got teeth, right? He wants to have teeth, so fucking gum disease is not going to get me there, And that's just a small but real example of that. So yeah, the gap between who you could be and who you are now is the source of discontent and cognitive dissonance. The more you focus on who you could be, the greater that discontent will become, and the more motivated you will be to do things to become the best possible self. Okay, so that's why again, this daily journaling really helps to maximise that action. All right, so sticking with the Greeks for a bit longer. How to achieve your plus 10, your optimised best possible self. The Greeks believed that to do that, to achieve your summum bonum, your highest purpose, the best way to do that was to live a virtuous life. okay? If you're unclear what virtue is, it's just basically living with excellence and quality. So everything you do with a mind of doing with excellence and to the highest level of quality that you can, okay? And that if you live your life virtuously, then happiness, meaning, purpose, contentment, fulfillment, everything else comes along from doing that, okay? So when we journal, as you'll see over here, we use virtues and we journal about the virtues of the person we want to become, all right? I find it easier to use the word excellence, which is why you'll hear me talking about the pursuit of personal excellence. So to achieve your +10 through virtue, excellence and quality, and achieve meaning and happiness is the purpose of using peak performance journaling. And the reason we're going to do peak performance journaling is so that we can close that gap between who we are now and who we could become. And the reason we're going to do that is so we can feel better about ourselves, but also that we can use our greatest strengths in service to the world. All quite neat so far, right? Mm-hmm. And it's only taken 5 minutes to go through the entire first thing. So, any questions so far? No. Comments?
1 to 10 scale makes it a lot easier to
okay.
You know?
Oh, you like it helps make sense, yeah. Yeah, it's really good. It is, yeah. It's
well then it's just I feel good.
Exactly. It's how good are you feeling? How good are you being? And you know, actually, I love this about it. When Yassine, who's my mentor, who taught me this, when he said to me on the phone call back in August, "What would you rate yourself as now?" And I was like, "Oh, got to be a +4, right?" And I did all this journaling, and then we had another call in December, and I was like, well, even though I rated myself a +4, and even though now I feel better than I did when I rated myself a +4, I also have a better understanding of who I could become, and I'm not a +4 in relation to that +10 now, so I'd actually now rate myself at a 3, but the 3 who I am now is better than the 4 I thought I was, right? So it's actually really interesting how that grows and expands and evolves. But also, yeah, at the same time, having that linear kind of example of how to follow that is super useful. So, the last bit on here is, well, how do we achieve our +10 through virtue? Because again, it's a bit airy-fairy, right? There's no something solid to it. So, peak performance psychology plus Freud. The research shows that if we optimize ourselves in our energy, our work, and our love, so if we try and live with as much virtue as we can in the realms of our personal energy, work, and love, we can achieve the +10. That is the path or a path towards it, okay? The way you do it's going to be really different. The way you sit down and do this journal every day, like if we all sat down in 3 months' time and compared our journals, you might recognise the structure behind it, but the way it comes out is going to be really different, okay? So don't worry too much about, did I have to write that sentence this way around or that way around or whatever. So take the essence of what we're talking about, practice it, develop it in your own way, because my +10 and my highest purpose is going to be different to yours, Paolo, and Paolo's going to be different to yours, Dan, and so on and so forth, okay? So take the essence of what we're talking about and do it in a way that it means something for you. So optimizing your life in energy, work, and love. Now when we talk about these 3 topics, energy is your personal energy, it's your physical energy, your mental energy, your emotional energy. It's like, I think of it more now as energy and being. It's like the spiritual side of it as well as the physical energy side of it. So it is as much, how do you show up in the room? How do you show up for your customers and clients when you're working? How do you show up for your loved ones? How do you show up for yourself? How do you carry yourself in that energy throughout the day? How do you walk down the street, right? But it's also like, how do you feel on the inside? What's your internal energy? What's your spiritual energy like? What's your mind like? So energy and being, I like to think of that first one. That's really important. Work is also purpose, right? Work is what you get up, why you get up and what you do in the day, your life's work, your life's purpose, the thing that you do that's going to contribute to yourself and contribute to the world, okay? And I'm just going to talk on that point about being heroic. That's a lovely segue that I wasn't sure I'd be able to find, and I just did it, so that's great. So being heroic. The ancient Greek interpretation of a hero was a protector, and he was the protector of two. So back when Greece wasn't Greece, but it was a bunch of city-states, the hero was the guy who protected the state. So if you protected the state, you were a protector of yourself and your state, yourself and your home. Okay, that's what the definition was. So it's really powerful to think heroically, especially in work and love, but actually for yourself as well in energy, because you're always a protector of two. And the first person you're protecting is yourself, okay? You're protecting yourself in a heroic way, and you are protecting that number two. That number two can be your son, it can be your girlfriend, it can be your estate, it can be the clients you look after, it can be your town, it can be your community, but whoever it is, you protect them heroically, okay? So when you're doing your work, or you think of yourself as being a hero, and I don't mean in an action movie kind of way, I mean in a bit more of a noble protection kind of way, okay? So when I talk about being heroically, which I will, doing things heroically as I will on this bit, that's what that means. Does that make sense? Yeah? Cool. Right, I'm gonna get you fuckers doing something. No, that's a really good point actually. Is you can definitely use this. You can use this to wrap up your day, and you can ask yourself, what did I do today to move myself closer to the next level? So if you feel like you're a 3, what did I do today to get closer to a 4? And it's actually really good, like in terms of if you do that at the end of the day, psychologically, it's very, very healthy, because that percolates in your mind overnight as a positive reinforcement that you're doing good, but rather than focus on what didn't I do today. And also, it kind of adds impetus to do stuff in the day, because you're going to be reviewing yourself tonight, and you don't want to review yourself and go, yeah. So that's cool, man. Yeah, great comment. Love it. Good. Do any of you want to write anything down for this? I'm going to rub that off now. So there's 2 questions at the top here that you kind of want to find an answer for, and we're going to do that. Because what is your greatest strength and how are you going to use it, right? So who do you want to be? How do you want to impact the world? Doesn't matter whether that's I'm going to pick up some litter or I'm going to save 10 million babies. Doesn't matter where it is right now, as long as it is somewhere. You might feed a cat, you might feed homeless people, it doesn't really matter. What do you want to achieve? Well, I'm going to tell you mine to give you an example. And I'm going to get you to think about it and then write it down and then tell me, all right? When you do it, don't get stuck into going immediately into the considerations. Don't start SWOT analysing it. Think about it with no restrictions on whether it's achievable or not. I mean, you've got to believe in it, but don't start thinking, oh no, I won't have that because that would take this, and then if I did that, then I wouldn't have to do that because I'm going to go here. So just like, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to get done? Okay. So I'll tell you mine, and this is your highest purpose. So for me, I've got 3 things, and sometimes a 4th, but at the moment, the 3 things that are for me are connected to using my greatest strengths, bringing them to help people. One is to just be the best father I can possibly be, in the opinion of my son, as well as in the opinion of myself. And those are the only two opinions that really matter for me on that. But that's my number one guiding light. It's just to be the best possible father I could be. But here's the important thing about that. And this is really important actually for you as well. It's about being the best father I can be in my actions, even when Alexander can't see me. Like, what I'm doing right now, if I was gonna die here now in the act of whatever it is I'm doing, and my son would know that that's how I died, or that's what I was doing at the moment of my death, would I feel proud that that's how he saw me? You know? Or just even like, whatever you're doing, like, oh, if Lexi saw me now, would I tell my son to do what I'm doing right now, to be his best possible self? Because if not, I probably shouldn't be doing it. So that's kind of where that comes from. It's not just, I'm going to play with you, yay. It's like, how would I want to be seen by him even when he's not around? So anyway, be the best father I can for my son is number one. Number two is to be a father figure and a positive male role model for at least 100,000 young men and boys around the UK who are in need of help, guidance, support and love. Number two is to help at least 100,000 men in the UK feel better, get stronger, know their true worth and achieve their highest purpose. That's my, what do I want to be, who do I want, what do I want to impact the world? That's the fucking effect that I want to have as a man. Even as I'm saying that, I can feel myself getting taller and feeling stronger and a bit more passionate because that fucking fires me up. Okay, so I'm going to we can take up to 5 minutes, we can have up to 1:45. Advice is just use free writing. So just get your pen, get a fresh clean sheet of paper and just start writing. Write as many as you want for the next 5 minutes and then we can spend a minute picking out the ones that mean the most to you, but don't just sit there thinking about it. Just pick your pen up now and go, start writing. All right, cool. That's great. Those are solid, man. There's a great opportunity for you. Keep those, because those are going to build and develop and grow, all right? What you can do in your own time, and as you do this, is you can fill those out.
Oh, yeah.
You can make them more specific. So you want to be a great coach. You could actually just use journaling for a couple of weeks on deciding exactly what that means to you. Fill that out, because a huge part of all of this is using really strong visualization. So I didn't just wake up and come up with those. Actually, I found the fourth one for mine. Where did I put it? Providing the best place to work and grow in the UK for fitness professionals and those interested in a career in self-development, personal improvement, blah, blah. So those four for me that I read to you I didn't wake up and go, oh, I want to do that. They kind of grew and developed over months and years, right? But the exciting thing is that they get to do that. And you might come in next time we do this and be like, I want to be the best powerlifting coach in the UK and the most recognised, and I want to have had this many British champions, world champions, or whatever it is. I mean, you might get some real details around that, details that really fucking excite you about it. Okay, so those things that you've written down, I hope yours are as powerful and personal to you as Dan's are that he wrote out. Those are the things that you're going to use to remind yourself each and every fucking day who you are, what your highest purpose is, you know, who you want to become, how you want to affect the world. Think about that. And now, here's where it starts to get even more powerful, is you get to imagine if you were the person who had done all of those. So if we fast forwarded into the future, and you were the person who had done all of that, who would you be? If you'd done all of the coaching, the lifting, the competing, the helping people, who would you be? How would you show up day by day in all of the situations that you're in each day? What would your habits, rituals, and behaviors be like if you were that person? Because that person, as we sit here now, is your plus 10. So he's who you are becoming every day. Now the secret to this journaling, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of it in a second here. The secret of the journaling is this. You are not journaling to become him in the future. You're journaling to be him today. Okay? When you write these things down in your journal, write them as if that's who you already are. Make sense? Now a little side note, and this rung out to me when we were chatting the other day in Rosie Lee, which is to be impeccable with your word. This comes from the 4 agreements, and it's the first and most important one. Do you want a minute to finish writing, mate?
I'm listening.
Okay. So being impeccable with your word is about how you refer to yourself when you're thinking to yourself about yourself. It's how you refer to yourself when you're talking about yourself to other people, and it's also how you think and refer to other people when you're thinking about them and talking about them to other people as well, okay? And it's about never using negativity, especially towards yourself. It's really, really important and very powerful when you get the hang of that. And it's also very negatively powerful if you're in the habit of not doing it, okay? The reason that I've thought this was really important to bring up is just on the comment, and it's not criticism, it's an observation. We were talking about something in the Rosie Lee, and you just said, as part of what you're saying, I'm a really negative person, right? You said that. Here's the thing. Your subconscious is like this much of what happens in your life is due to your subconscious. Your conscious thoughts are up here, okay? But what happens is your subconscious takes your conscious thoughts, including the way you speak and think to yourself, about yourself, and it takes those as instructions. That making sense? Yeah? So, if you're going around saying to yourself and to other people, I'm just a really negative person, you're going to find it really difficult to start doing really positive shit because you're telling yourself, you're programming your subconscious to say, I'm a negative person. Then you'd be like, oh, when you want to do this positive stuff, but I'm too negative for that. I'll just let myself fuck it up. And you'll go and allow yourself to mess it, or you'll create a negative behaviour, or you'll do that. You're like, I'm a negative person, but I want to do this, I'm going to fucking do it. But then your subconscious will then just fuck something else up instead to bring your overall level of positivity down to where it sees you. Yeah?
There is a good quote by Lao Tzu. You know the quote, watch your thoughts, for they become your words.
Well, I don't know it, but it sounds very familiar to this.
That's really good.
Yeah, very, very, very powerful. So really, do you know what? This is all extremely powerful, but if the only thing you took away today from this was that's going to make a hell of a difference on its own. That's how powerful this one little thing is, okay? Be impeccable with your word. The audio book's really short. It's only a couple of hours long, well worth a listen. It's called The 4 Agreements. The more you get into the habit of this +10 thinking, the more you're going to get into the habit of being impeccable with your word, to the point where when you allow yourself a negative self-thought, or you say something negative about another person, it will jar. Because that's your subconscious going, you're not being who you are. Does that make sense? So it works both ways. I'm going to just go over this one more time. Your subconscious is going to keep you where you tell yourself you should be. So if you've got a lifetime of habits of saying, this is how much happiness, money, freedom, wealth, and potential I deserve, and then you use willpower and determination to get above that, your subconscious, I guarantee it, will find ways to drag you back down. Okay? That's why for me, I go for a period of personal growth. My subconscious goes, fuck, quick, John, start drinking too much. That's pretty much what happens for me, okay? When you do this and that consistently, you are reprogramming your subconscious to believe in a higher level of happiness, contentment, meaning, and fulfillment. Which means that when you put the work in to do the good stuff, you'll be allowed to stay there. And the further up you go, and the more you and the more reinforce the more reinforced that becomes, the bigger you can grow. And that's how come you realise that at the moment you look, you think you're here and your plus 10 is here. When you get to there, you'll realise your plus 10 is there, but you'll be able to see that now. At the moment, you can't see past here. So this is good enough as a plus 10. Does that all make sense? Do you see how important that is? Really fucking important. Right. So, how to answer these questions effectively so that they move you towards your plus 10 is the journaling. So start your journal every day, either written or just sitting down thinking about what you've come up with there. Think about it, visualize it. That's why you want to get it in as much detail as you can. Turn great coach into the best coach in Europe, or whatever you believe you could be if you were at your absolute plus 10. Turn it into that specifically, okay? You think about those things, who you want to become, what your purpose is. You get that vision up, you get the detail. What's it going to smell like? What's it going to taste like? You're going to live in the sun, but where are you going to live in the sun? And when you do live in the sun, what are you going to do on those days when you wake up in the morning and you're not working? Who's going to be in your bed next to you? What's the beach going to look like? And all of those things, right? Visualize it. It only needs to take a few minutes. And then we go on to the actual proper journaling, which is the energy, work and love. So, have you finished with this, guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, this is kind of the nitty-gritty of the journey. I'm going to need to refer to mine actually. It's my journal there. This is how crazy I get on my journey today. I started it, and I wrote, I am going to make it. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to write that shit 10 times. So I wrote it 10 times and then started my journal again. Really good. Right. Yes. So we've got the answer of who your plus 10 is for now. We've got a good enough idea of who that is. So then you think, okay, if I was my plus 10, how would I show up with my energy every day? What would my energy virtues be? So this is a really simple way of doing it, and feel free to evolve this in any way that works for you. I would, however, keep these first two as your two most important virtues in all areas. Okay, so these are just some examples of virtues that you can choose in terms of, by virtue, characteristics in which you pursue excellence. Okay? So if I was the guy who'd done all of the things, how would I turn up every day if courage was one of my highest virtues? How would the most courageous version of me turn up every day? Okay? There's a really useful phrase for this. Comes again from, I guess, something Roman or whatever. I really had to get up on those quotes. Which is walk through your fear doors. Okay? And it's a really powerful thing to remember in terms of being courageous. You can't have courage without fear, all right? But most of the time there's a door through which we could go and grow but that door is fear, so we don't walk through it. So if you tell yourself, with courage as my virtue, I walk through my fear doors. You write that down. You write these things down, like I said earlier, as though you are that person now, all right? Here you go. I am courageous and I am going to make it. I am heroic in my thoughts, feelings and actions. I am physically fit, lean, strong and muscular, okay? You write them down because you're telling yourself you are that now. So that when your subconscious catches you not being that, it sends you a little signal, which is unhappiness, despair, a little pang of anxiety, feelings of overwhelm or whatever it is. That's not a sign that shit's going wrong. That's an indication that there's just something you need to do. There's an action you need to take, okay? Whether it's walking through your fear doors, whatever the things are that you don't do because you're scared of doing them, do them, okay? So what you can do, and this is a simple version of doing it. Can you guys see that? Right, so the way I do it is I write all of my thoughts down on that as I'm journaling. And I do that for all of the virtues that I have, all of the areas in which I want to be excellent in my energy and being. What you can do at the start is you can just write that down. I am courageous. And if I was courageous, I would. And then you just think, right, how am I going to show up courageously today? How am I going to show up courageously today in everything that I do? Now for me, I love to just scribble that shit down. It kind of excites me. But if you want, you can start by just thinking and embodying and feeling those thoughts. Yeah? And you can do that for all of the things that you relate to, virtues related to your energy and being in relation to who it is you want to become and being that person now. Heroic, I told you how important it was about being a hero. Yeah, so have that. If I was going to be the most heroic version of me today, how am I going to show up today from now until I go to bed being the most heroic version of myself? What am I going to do? Again, write it down if you want. Sit and think about it if you want. But think about it in terms of it's already now and it's positive. So never think, what would I not do? What would I avoid? Or what would I stop doing? And don't think, right, just think of, I am heroic. I show up with courage. I show up with energy. I walk through my fear doors. I help the people that I'm responsible for. I go the extra mile. I bring energy and passion to my every action. Making sense? Mm-hmm. Good. So that's your energy virtues. That's just an example of your energy virtues. Copy them down and use them if you want. That's what I did when I was taught this. I copied the ones that Yassine told me, and then within 2 weeks, I kind of had a list of my own way of making that work for me, okay? The most important thing is you have an idea of who you are as your +10. You have an idea of some virtues you want with courage and heroic at the top, and you either write or think about them in terms of you are that now and in terms of positive behavior. So you do that again for work and you do that again for love. So I'm going to give you some examples around that. Oh, what should I bang? Yeah, I'm going to do that now. Where are we? Yeah. And remember, work for you is the achievement of your highest purpose. So the things that you wrote down, it's the achievement of that is what you think of as work. So I'm going to do 2 of these things here. I know. 20, yeah. Well, I'll go 2 like that. So, you know, if you were thinking about your best possible self, again, you would turn up to work with courage, you'd turn up to work with a hero, you'd turn up to work and take extreme ownership of every single thing. You might turn up to work and make sure that you're present and engaged with everyone that you meet. You might turn up to work with gratitude for all the people you get to work with and help every day. Yeah? I can send you some notes on this as well, so if you want a few more examples of what that can look like, I've got some stuff here that I prepared for you guys, so I'll bring that through as well, okay? So this is exactly the same process as that, but this time you're thinking about the way you show up and work, okay? So this is very personal, this is maybe this is maybe a bit more introspective, with the energy and being virtues, because that's who you are being and who you are to yourself and others. Work is a bit more kind of extrinsic, because it's how you're going to show up in doing the work that you do and the people that are affected by that work. So this is a slightly different thing. So you can have courage in both, because you'll act courageously different in both of those aspects of work. A really helpful one that I learned recently is to think about, in terms of work, if 2020 was going to be the greatest year you've ever had, and the first year in a string of greatest years you ever have, then in terms for this to be the first of those greatest years you've ever had, you need to have 12 of the greatest months you've ever had, and that means you need to have 52 of the greatest weeks you've ever had, and each of those weeks needs to have 7 of the greatest days you've ever had, okay? So if 2020 was going to be the greatest year you've ever had, how will I turn up today in my work with courage as a virtue, with ownership as a virtue, with being present as a virtue, with gratitude as a virtue? Think about those things. Write stuff down. Percolate it in your mind. Am I still making sense? Yeah? All good, Dan? Cool. Tell me when you finish with that, I'm going to rub that off. Yeah? No, so I'm not rubbing this off because it's so motherfucking important. And you can use that question as well, the greatest year question, you can use that across everything. It's really powerful, I find it really powerful anyway. So the last of the three is love. And there's a little bit of a different way of thinking about this at the top. So when you think about love in terms of being your plus 10 and achieving your highest purpose and being the best possible person you could possibly be, we think about 4 areas of love first. We think about love to yourself, all right? You can't really bring much love to others unless you learn how to bring love to yourself first. If you're trying to bring love to everybody else but yourself, you're damaging yourself, and you're actually bringing small seeds of resentment every time you bring love to other people without loving yourself first, all right? And I literally risked losing the girl that I'm seeing this Friday because we were walking through central London to the tube station to go to hers, and I didn't want to go. I just had a bit of anxiety and I wanted to go home and be on my own. And I had to choose to show myself love at the risk that she might go, "You're a fucking weirdo," laters. And literally as we got to the tube station to get on to go to her, I stopped, I went, "Sorry, I'm actually going to go home. I'm not feeling great and I just need a bit of space." We've only known each other 2.5 weeks at this point, you know? And I went home and I felt great. I felt like, okay, I've just fucked that up, which is a shame because I really like her, but I felt so grateful to myself for showing myself love first, you know? It's really fucking important. And actually, she was totally cool about it, and I stayed at hers on Saturday, and we were actually probably, if anything, closer than we were if I hadn't done it. Because if I'd have gone round there, I'd have been off, and I'd have felt that I was undermining myself, and I would have resented being there because I'd let myself down because I should have gone home. So it's really fucking important. And if you're no good at that shit, start getting better at it now, because it can change your fucking life. Right, so it's love to yourself. Then it's love to the ones who are fucking super close to you. Whether it's a spouse or a girlfriend, whether it's a kid, whether you're extremely close to any of your parents or whatever it is, it's the ones that are fucking right there for you, right inside your world, okay? Then it's others close to you. So this could be other family members, good friends, people you work with, brothers, people you see as brothers or whatever. That's them. And then there's everyone else. Okay, then there's everyone else, including people sitting on a fucking doorway asking for fucking money, and everyone else around, and the people you see on the tube, and the people you walk past on the street, and the people that will be affected by your actions, even though they're not there right now. You know, it's basically the world. And what are you going to do today to show those people love, starting with yourself and going all the way through, and thinking about that in your every interaction and your every action that can affect others, or your every failure to act that can affect others, okay? This also relates a lot to being impeccable with your word again, and also living and acting from and in a place of love towards yourself and others, okay? So we're only really ever predicating our thoughts, feelings and actions on either of two states, a state of love or a state of fear. And whenever you're doing anything that was predicated on a decision or a thought that came from a place of fear, those actions are pretty much always wrong actions, either at the time or they unravel to become not wrong actions later on down the line, okay? So journaling about love is actually really important, and journaling about doing things and thinking things for yourself and others from a place of love instead of a place of fear, then life becomes better. And it's really useful to think about it like that way. It's very useful because then you get used to go, oh, just fear thinking on, oh shit, it's fear thinking. For me, that happens a lot around business. Oh, I'm not making sales, fuck, what should I do? That's fear thinking. Right, what would I do if I was coming from a place of love? Oh, I'm making better decisions already, okay? It's a really useful tool. And then, you can think of those love virtues. Guess what? Courage. Took courage for me to fucking turn away from a girl that I'm really into, knowing that she'd think I was being really fucking weird, and just go home. That took courage, man. It took courage to fucking message her the next morning and say, hey, how you doing? Should I come see you? You know? So courage in love is huge. In fact, I would argue probably the place we need the most of it. Because everyone gets burned and everyone gets hurt and people act fucking stupidly towards each other. And we start out naive, then we get jaded. And if you want to fucking grow, it takes courage, okay? So huge virtue is courage in terms of living with love, okay? But then, like, here are some fun ones as well. When you're in love, okay, you can be fun. You can be joyful. You can be childlike. You can be curious. You can still be a fucking hero. All of the most heroic acts are acts of love, right? So, if courage was a virtue for you, how would you show up today and show love for all of those people? How would you show up if joy was a virtue for yours? How would you show up if curiosity was a virtue? How much fun would you have if you gave yourself permission to have fun and show yourself love and show others love through being fun? How would you astonish people? So look, that's kind of the end. So we can do like a discussion about it, right? I want to know how much that's made sense. I kind of get some ideas of how exciting you might find that or not. I want to know when you're going to start journaling, and I want to know if it's not tomorrow morning before you do anything else, why not?
So you do it in the morning before you do anything else every day for how long?
This normally I would love to allow 25 minutes. Sometimes it's 10 minutes. It depends. So what I tend to do if my time's a bit short, just always remember energy, work and love. And remember, if courage was a virtue, or if whatever the virtue was a virtue, or if I wanted to be excellent, courage and excellence or whatever, then today I would show up like this, yeah? Energy, work and love, and the virtues connected to them, what you're embodying, blah, blah, blah. And then ideally you wake up, I wake up at 4:30, put the coffee on, sit down at my desk, open my journal, and I start writing. A lot of the time, especially now, I'll rewrite my 3 or 4 highest purpose goals, yeah? About helping 100,000 young men, 100,000 men, being the best dad, creating a great workplace, okay? Just to get like that vision into your blood. And then I would like to, if I have time, do some journaling on energy, work and love, and then go and do my shit, okay? If time's tight, if I've overslept, or got up and took a big shit that took 10 fucking minutes, because it happens, yeah? Or if I fail to get my shit together the night before, I'm like, oh, where's my stuff? You're cutting into your time. Then what I do is I'll journal one thing, then I'll read back through the last 2 times last time I journaled the other 2 things. So I'll journal energy, and I'll read my last lot of love and work. Then the next day, I'll journal work, and I'll read the last lot of love and energy. As long as you're reinforcing it, then it works, okay? So don't hold yourself down to a schedule that if you miss it, you're like, oh, I'm so shit. Because again, you need to be impeccable with your word. So just find ways of making it more positive. But yeah, do what you can do, grow it. The main thing is be consistent. So I try and do this 4 times a week. So I do it every morning before I come to the gym. That's 3 times a week done. And I try and do it at least once either on Tuesday or Thursday. Once during the week, I like to let myself lay in. Yeah. So like that's me showing myself love, is just having a couple more hours kit. All right. So yeah, find the rhythm that works for you. I'd say at least 4 times a week. Give it 3 weeks and start to feel an immense difference.